Amelia dreaded the attic. It was a monster of a room looming over the house. Dust coated everything. It swirled in the single beam of sunlight that pierced the grime-covered window. Boxes overflowed with forgotten memories. Each one felt heavier than the last.
13 years of stuff.
Amelia muttered, staring at a box labelled Amelia, age 7. It felt like yesterday.
Anything good up there?
Her mom's voice floated up the stairs. It was so cheerful it made Amelia cringe.
Just junk.
She shouted back, mostly true, except for the donation bin looming in the corner. That felt like where happiness went to die. She dragged an old suitcase across the floorboards. It popped open, releasing a cloud of dust. Amelia coughed. Inside, buried under a mountain of clothes, was a heap of glitter. Pink and gold sparkled in the dim light. Why had she kept this?
Don't forget the donation bin.
I know.
Amelia grumbled. Time to toss this junk. But as she reached for the glitter, something glinted beneath it. Something hidden in faded tissue paper. A necklace. This was no ordinary necklace. Not the cheap plastic kind Amelia used to love. This was different, old, important. A heavy silver chain looped twice held a gleaming pendant. It was shaped like an eye, and it felt like it was staring right at her. Suddenly, the glitter didn't seem so childish anymore. Amelia picked up the necklace. The metal was cold against her skin, freezing even, like it had been buried for centuries. Where had it come from? She'd never seen it before. It wasn't from any birthday or holiday. It was a complete mystery.
Find anything good?
Her mom's footsteps creaked on the stairs. Amelia shoved the necklace into her hoodie pocket.
Nope, just junk up here.
She hoped her voice sounded normal. Her mom's footsteps retreated. Amelia let out her breath. That thing, it felt strange, powerful. She wanted to put it on, feel it against her skin, but something stopped her. Something felt off.
Better safe than sorry.
She muttered to herself, burying the necklace deeper in her pocket. She could figure it out later. By nightfall, the attic was tamed. A mountain of discarded toys and clothes sat by the door, ready for the donation bin. Amelia felt a pang of guilt, but exhaustion outweighed it. Dinner, and then bed. Tomorrow was a new day. Sleep usually came easily, but not tonight. The necklace felt warm against her skin. The weight of it was comforting. Finally, though, her eyelids grew heavy. She drifted off. Then a sound jolted her awake, a scratching, a chittering. It was coming from the attic. Without thinking, Amelia scrambled out of bed and crept back towards the attic door. It was as if something was calling her back to that dusty room. The attic was dark. Moonlight did little to cut through the gloom. Again the scratching, closer now, like claws on wood.
Hello?
Her voice was a tiny squeak. Fumbling for her phone, Amelia scanned the room with the flashlight. Nothing but shadows and dust. Her heart pounded. There it was again. The sound was coming from below. The floorboards under her feet creaked. They were old, ancient. Amelia aimed the light at the floor. There, a sliver of darkness between two planks, and something moved within it. A yellow eye blinked in the beam of light, then it vanished with a hiss. A blur of movement, then silence. Just a rat, her brain insisted. But that eye, it had glowed. Amelia lay in bed, staring into the darkness. Sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the old house sounded like claws on wood. That glowing eye burned into her mind, chased away any chance of rest. It hadn't been a rat. She knew it. The necklace felt heavy in her pocket. Was it warm? Or was that just her imagination? Turning over, Amelia tried to ignore it. Tried to tell herself it was just an old necklace. A weird, creepy old necklace. But the attic seemed to pull at her. Morning couldn't come soon enough. Sunlight streamed through her window, a welcome relief. Downstairs, her mum was humming in the kitchen. The smell of pancakes made her stomach rumble. For a moment, things felt normal. Safe. But the attic still called to her. All day, Amelia couldn't focus. Her history teacher droned on about ancient civilizations. Lost cities, forgotten magic. Amelia almost laughed out loud.
If only he knew.
Amelia thought to herself. Finally, the last bell of the day rang. Freedom. Amelia practically ran out of school, ignoring her friends' calls. She had to get home to the attic. The house was quiet when she arrived. Her mom was at work. Taking a deep breath, Amelia climbed the attic stairs. This time she didn't hesitate. She flipped on the overhead light, bathing the attic in a harsh yellow glow. The shadows seemed to shrink back, but the air still felt heavy. Watchful,
A glint of movement in the far corner.
Amelia froze. Something moved behind an upturned crate. It was bigger than any rat she'd ever seen. Her heart hammered in her chest.
Come out, she said. Her voice surprised her. It was shaky but firm. I know you're there.
Silence. Then a low growl rumbled from behind the crate. A shiver ran down her spine. What had she gotten herself into? The creature exploded from behind the crate. Amelia gasped. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Larger than a dog, sleek and dark, with muscles rippling beneath its fur. Its teeth, long and sharp, gleamed in the dim light. But it was the eyes that held her captive. Glowing yellow eyes, burning like hot coals, just like the night before, but this time there was something more in those eyes. Intelligence. And something else. Recognition?
Amelia's blood ran cold. This wasn't just some wild animal. This was something out of a nightmare, something impossible.
And then it spoke. Not a growl or a bark, words. The voice was deep, raspy, like stones grinding together.
The bearer, it rasped. You have awakened it.
Amelia stumbled back, fear making her legs weak. This couldn't be real. Animals didn't talk. Except this one was. Her hand instinctively went to the necklace in her pocket.
What are you? She stammered.
The creature lowered its head, never taking its burning eyes off her. I am the guardian, the gatekeeper. It took a step closer, and the age of hiding is over.
Before Amelia could even blink, the creature lunged, not at her, but her. It was a blur of shadow and teeth, vanishing into the far wall as if it were mist. Amelia stood frozen, heart thudding in her chest. What had just happened? Slowly she turned to face the wall. It was no longer solid brick. Where the creature had vanished, a swirling vortex of light shimmered. It pulsed with an eerie rhythm, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. This was impossible, insane. Yet deep down it felt right, like something she was meant to do. The creature's words echoed in her mind.
The age of hiding is over.
Taking a hesitant step forward, Amelia reached out. The air around the vortex shimmered, icy cold and burning hot all at once. It sent a shiver down her spine. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the light.
Amelia blinked. Gone was the dusty attic, the musty air, the faint scent of mothballs. She was bathed in warm sunlight, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and pine needles. Birdsong filled the air, a melody far more beautiful than any city noise. She stood on a bed of lush green grass, surrounded by towering trees. Their branches, heavy with leaves, formed a canopy overhead, dappling the clearing in sunlight. And in front of her, a waterfall. It cascaded down a moss-covered cliff face, a torrent of silver and foam crashing into a crystal-clear pool below. Amelia had never seen anything so beautiful. It was like stepping into a fairy tale. Could this be real? Or was she dreaming?
Welcome.
The voice, soft and melodic, startled Amelia. She spun around, her heart pounding. Standing at the edge of the clearing was an old woman. Her skin was the color of rich, dark earth, her hair a crown of silver braids. She wore a flowing robe of the deepest blue, a color that seemed to hold the secrets of the twilight sky. But it was her eyes that captivated Amelia. They were the most intense shade of violet, filled with kindness and wisdom. A wisdom that spoke of ages long past.
Don't be afraid, child. You are in no danger here.
Amelia's voice caught in her throat.
Who are you?
The corners of the woman's eyes crinkled in a smile.
My name is Alara. You've started a journey, young one far grander than you yet realize.
1,000 questions swirled in Amelia's mind. But before she could voice them, Alara held up a hand.
Patience. There is much for you to learn. But first, come. Wash away the dust of your old life.
She gestured towards the waterfall. Hesitantly, Amelia crossed the clearing. The roar of the waterfall filled her ears, the spray a cool mist against her skin. The world seemed to shimmer, to fade at the edges as Ilara's voice, soothing and melodic, began to weave a tale.
You, Amelia, are a descendant of the ancients. Those who walked when magic was young, when the veil between worlds was thin. Your very bloodline holds the echoes of that time.
Amelia's hand instinctively went to the pendant, heavy in her pocket. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own in time with Ilara's words.
Your finding of the amulet, it was no accident. It called to you, awakened the dormant magic inside you.
Her violet eyes held Amelia's gaze.
You see what others cannot. Your destiny is intertwined with the hidden world.
Destiny? Magic? Amelia felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. This had to be madness. Yet deep inside, a spark flickered. It felt less like disbelief and more like coming home. Ilara placed a gentle hand on Amelia's shoulder.
This path will hold both great wonder and great peril. The choice, however, remains yours.
Amelia looked around her, at the impossible beauty of this hidden world, at this woman who spoke of ancient magic as if it were commonplace. And with a defiant tilt of her chin, she met Ilara's gaze.
Show me.
Her voice filled with a conviction she didn't know she possessed.
Show me.
The word, barely a whisper on Amelia's lips, seemed to echo through the clearing. The waterfall roared, a constant reminder of the impossible world she'd stumbled into. Doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind. Was she really ready for this? For a world of magic and destiny? A world where creatures spoke and amulets pulsed with ancient power?
So be it, but be warned, child. Once you step onto this path, there is no turning back.
Amelia's hand tightened around the necklace in her pocket. Fear, sharp and cold, twisted in her gut. But it was overshadowed by something else. Curiosity. A longing for something more than the ordinary world she'd always known. Taking a deep breath, Amelia stepped closer to Ilara. The old woman's violet eyes, filled with an ancient wisdom, held hers captive. There was no judgment in those eyes, only acceptance and a challenge.
I'm ready.
Her voice stronger now, steadier. She wasn't sure if she believed it, but the words felt right.
Then let us begin.
In the center, a shimmering pool of water reflected the sky like 1,000 tiny stars. A ring of towering oak trees encircled the clearing, their branches intertwined overhead, forming a natural cathedral. They emerged into a clearing larger than the last, bathed in the warm glow of the afternoon sun. The scent of pine needles and damp earth filled Amelia's lungs, a welcome change from the city's exhaust fumes. The air grew cooler, the sunlight filtering through the canopy above, painting the forest floor in dappled shades of green and gold. Ilara led Amelia deeper into the forest, following a winding path barely visible beneath a carpet of fallen leaves.
This is where you will hone your gifts. This is where you will learn.
As if the very air thrummed with unseen energy. This place felt ancient, powerful. Amelia gazed around, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation.
Gifts? What gifts?
All in good time, child. All in good time, child.
Ilara gestured towards the pool.
The first lesson is always the hardest. It requires trust. Trust in yourself and trust in the magic that flows through you.
Amelia approached the pool cautiously, her reflection staring back at her, a stranger in this strange new world. The water was so clear she could see every detail of the mossy stones lining the bottom, every ripple spreading outwards from where a single leaf had fallen. Taking a deep breath, she knelt at the edge of the pool, dipping her fingers into the cool water. It sent a shiver down her spine, a jolt of energy that seemed to spread outwards, tingling in her fingertips.
Close your eyes, breathe, find the stillness within.
Amelia obeyed, closing her eyes, focusing on the rise and fall of her breath. The air around her seemed to crackle with unseen energy. She could feel Ilara's presence beside her, a steady beacon in the swirling chaos of her thoughts.
Now reach out, not with your hands, but with your mind. Feel the energy that surrounds you, the magic that flows through all living things.
Section 4, a spark ignites. At first, there was nothing but the same tingling sensation she'd felt before. Then, slowly, something shifted. The air around her seemed to come alive, buzzing with an unseen energy. It felt warm, inviting, like 1,000 tiny sparks dancing just beyond her grasp. She could feel it now, a current of energy flowing around her, through her, and then, as if a dam had broken, it surged. A wave of pure energy washed over her, so powerful it knocked her backwards onto the soft earth. Above her, the leaves on the oak trees rustled, as if stirred by an invisible breeze. The surface of the pool shimmered, tiny ripples spreading outwards from where she sat. And deep within her chest, Amelia felt a warmth spread, a spark igniting. She had felt the magic, her magic. Section 1. A new awareness. The world shimmered around her, the forest floor a kaleidoscope of greens and browns. Sunlight filtering through the canopy above seemed to dance and swirl with an energy she'd never noticed before. It was as if a veil had been lifted from her eyes, revealing a world hidden in plain sight.
Asterisk looked down at her hands, turning them over, watching the play of light and shadow on her skin. They looked the same, yet felt different, charged with a current of energy that thrummed beneath the surface.
The necklace, nestled against her chest, pulsed in time with her heartbeat, a tangible reminder of the power that coursed through her veins. Ilara watched her with a knowing smile, her violet eyes filled with a warmth that calmed the storm of emotions raging within Amelia.
The first touch is always the most profound. It awakens something within us, a connection to something ancient and powerful.
What? What was that?
That child was the touch of magic, your birthright, the legacy of the ancients flowing through your veins.
The word legacy hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Amelia shivered, despite the warmth of the sun on her skin.
Legacy.
It was a word that spoke of history, of responsibility, of a weight she wasn't sure she was ready to carry.
Legacy, what does it mean?
Ilara gestured to the forest around them, her movements fluid and graceful, like a willow swaying in the breeze.
You carry the blood of the ancients, child. Those who walked this earth when magic was young, when the veil between worlds was thin. They were powerful, wise, but also flawed. Their choices, their mistakes, echo through the ages, shaping the world we know today.
Amelia frowned, trying to grasp the enormity of what Ilara was telling her. It was like trying to hold onto a handful of water. The more she tried to grasp it, the more it slipped through her fingers.
But why me? Why now?
Ilara's smile was tinged with sadness.
The why is never ours to know, child, but the now is always our choice. You have been chosen, Amelia. Chosen to inherit the mantle of the ancients, to wield their power, to right their wrongs.
The weight of Ilara's words settled upon Amelia's shoulders, heavy and inescapable. Chosen. Destiny. Words she'd only ever read in books, heard whispered in hushed tones around campfires, were now her reality. A reality she hadn't asked for, wasn't sure she wanted. Before she could voice the torrent of questions swirling in her mind, a low growl rumbled through the clearing, shaking the very air around them. Amelia's head snapped up, her gaze instinctively drawn to the shadows that danced at the edge of the clearing. The creature emerged from the trees, its sleek, dark form moving with a predatory grace that sent a shiver down Amelia's spine. Its eyes glowing like hot coals in the dappled sunlight, fixed on her, unwavering and intense. It was the same creature from the attic, the gatekeeper, but something had changed. The air around it crackled with energy, its presence radiating power and a strange sense of urgency.
The time for whispers is over, young one. The balance has shifted. The veil weakens, and the forces of darkness stir.
Amelia's breath caught in her throat, fear a cold knot in her stomach. She had stumbled into a world far more complex, far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. A world where ancient magic and mythical creatures were not the stuff of legends, but a terrifying reality. Amelia's heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden silence that had descended upon the clearing. The gatekeeper's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threat, a stark contrast to the beauty of the ancient forest that surrounded her. The veil weakens. The forces of darkness stir. Fear, sharp and cold, coiled in her stomach, whispering doubts she couldn't ignore. She glanced at Ilara, seeking reassurance in the old woman's wise eyes, but found only a reflection of the gravity that had settled over the clearing. Ilara's gaze, usually so warm and comforting, was now filled with a somber understanding, an acknowledgement of the perilous path that lay before them. A choice. Ilara had said the choice was hers, but what choice did she have? Could she turn her back on this world, pretend she hadn't felt the surge of magic, the weight of destiny settling upon her shoulders? Could she ignore the call to action, the desperate plea in the gatekeeper's glowing eyes? Amelia's fingers tightened around the silver pendant beneath her shirt, its cool metal a source of comfort in the swirling chaos of her thoughts. She thought of her ordinary life, of school and friends, of a future that seemed both predictable and impossibly distant. A life that now felt as fragile as a cobweb, easily brushed aside by the winds of change. Looking back at the gatekeeper, its imposing form silhouetted against the dappled sunlight filtering through the ancient trees, Amelia felt a surge of determination course through her veins. Fear was still there, a whisper at the edge of her awareness, but it was overshadowed by a growing sense of purpose. She had been chosen, for good or ill, and she would face whatever destiny had in store for her.
What do I need to do?
The gatekeeper's lips curled into a humorless smile, revealing a flash of sharp teeth.
The path is long, young bearer, and fraught with peril. But the first step is always the same. Embrace your legacy. Claim your power.
Turning its piercing gaze to Ilara, the creature inclined its head in a gesture that was both acknowledgement and respect.
The time has come for the student to surpass the master. The fate of this world and all worlds rests upon her shoulders.
Ilara met the creature's gaze, her violet eyes unwavering. Reaching out, she placed a hand on Amelia's shoulder, her touch a familiar comfort in the face of the unknown.
The journey ahead will test you in ways you cannot imagine, but never doubt yourself, child. The magic within you is strong. Trust your instincts. And remember, you are not alone.
Taking a deep breath, Amelia squared her shoulders, her gaze fixed on the path ahead. The forest seemed to shimmer around her, the air alive with unseen energy, beckoning her forward. With a final glance at Ilara, a silent promise exchanged between them, Amelia turned towards the gatekeeper, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The journey had begun.